Hey guys, what is going on? It's Ando, and we've got another Galaxy of Heroes video today. And today we're going to dive into a topic that I've been asked a few times. Been running a series where I've been talking about my roster progression and how I fell behind, and I was thinking of the old way and not the new way of our new economy that we have. And I had some people ask, like, what are you talking about? What new economy are you talking about? So I wanted to delve into this because honestly, I was so disconnected for a while because of, the family thing that I had that went on, that it was almost, it felt like one day I woke up and the game had all these different things. And when you look at it, and again, I think it was released like in little bits and pieces. So when you just saw in like that, maybe a little snapshot, you were like, oh, whatever. But when you see it in the overall big picture, we had a huge economy change. And again, if you have to maintain that competitive edge, and you have to know what the economy is in order to keep that competitive edge. So we're going to talk about that today. And so if you enjoy these topics, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, as I always like to talk about these kinds of things. But I think we're in the midst of it too. I don't think it's done. But before we kind of delve into what's changed, I'm going to show you guys what the economy was back when, what I was used to and why my roster fell behind so much. So we're going to take a quick glance at just basically like a little bit of history, like a history lesson, if you will. So I'm going to go to a Relic 8 character, JMK. Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't get the love. So obviously you had a few different things going on here. I'm going to move my face really quick so that way you guys can kind of see the actual Relic materials. So with relics, it's always been a bottleneck with, yes, you have your relic materials, but you also had your signal data. So signal data is, still going to be there, right? Especially this flawed signal data, the blues, right? They're hard to come by. It's a little bit like pulling teeth sometimes. There was different ways, like people would kind of even crystal farm them in order to try to keep up with the relics. But we'll go through this from kind of the onset of this, right? Unless you were paying a lot of money, stuff like electriums didn't come very easy as well either. Now this bottleneck was eased up a lot when the raid came out, because now all of a sudden you have the agency to say, okay, I'm going to spend all my Mark III tokens on electriums, right? Because the biggest thing that I want to do is try to get my roster up to relic 7, right? Or at least applicable units up to relic 7. You needed that for events, you needed that for TB. You think about where relic 7 is, like you have to get to that level. That's only probably about on phase 4, phase 5 for most guilds that you're gonna need that. Maybe even phase 2, if I remember, or phase 3, I guess. So it comes quick, right? And so you need relic 7s in a lot of places, and electriums get ate up like crazy. So this was kind of the first bottleneck. But again, with the raid that came out, and with your ability to have the agency to pick, okay, well, I'm gonna buy electriums with my Mark III tokens. Notice I'm saying Mark III tokens. Well, eventually we had this thing called, once you started now needing to push relic 8s, arrow magnifiers became kind of the pseudo bottleneck after that, because how we got arrow magnifiers was really just based off of the old Crankor raid, which some people never even got to like experience, which is just wild to me. But Crankor was the one that kind of gave these things out. And that for a long time, that was the only way. And then we got other things, like events and whatnot that would kind of give them out. But again, you could kind of solve that through the raid, right? Mark III tokens could buy arrow magnifiers. Okay, so bottleneck maybe not solved completely, but at least now we have the agency to pick, okay, well, I'm going to get 20 of these arrow magnifiers so that way I can upgrade a character to relic 8. But then what we were really held back by was, and especially if you were a spender, and especially if you had pushed your roster up high enough, droid brains. There was no way of getting this other than territory wars. And if you think about it, you only get 5 per win in a territory war, which means that it takes you 4 successful wars where you've won in order to get one character up to R9. This is why for so long people were just saying the only thing that you relic 9 is JML and requirements. And it is hard to combat that, right? It's hard to kind of go against that logic because they're right, like with it being such a premium thing, especially if your guild is, about that 50-ish% in territory wars, it's going to take you a month, 2 months, 3 months to get even one singular R9. And yeah, even if your guild somehow goes 52-0 for a year, I think I did the math and that's only like 20 or like, I think it's only 10 R9s, right? And so when you think about it in that regard, and we've got, hundreds of characters at this point, you can really be bottlenecked quickly by this. Not to mention also that these were really expensive. When you look at what it required to like get these gear to pads, it was not a good gear for us to have, right? You need to get people up to gear 13. A new character pops out, you need to get them to gear 13. And so that way you can push them to, relic 5, relic 7, whatever the case is. Well, going back to this again, they did kind of ease us a little bit whenever they came out with, like, I remember like the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn event. You could have a chance for some droid brains, or you could get a chance for the gear to pads. And it was always kind of a debate between people like, I need more droid brains, or hey, I would take the gear to pads because I can't salvage that material because I need it for characters' gears. So that's kind of the background, right? This was the way. Like if you wanted to push relics on characters, man, it was just bottleneck after bottleneck after bottleneck. So let's talk about what has changed then, right? Why do I keep talking about these changes? So first, what I want to go through is the shipments, right? So okay, so obviously most recently we were given this era store. Okay, so era shipments, in my opinion, should only be reserved for your coaxial servo motor. Just like we hit a bottleneck with TW being the only place, the exclusive place we'll call it, for droid brains, we now only have a very limited place for these coaxial servo motors. Even if you aren't applying R10s right now, know that eventually in the long term of things, when they ease stuff up, you will be adding R10s, right? So you want to have at least some. Now, the caveat to that is for people that, are newer to the game or that are developing a roster, this is, these light speed tokens are excellent, right? You just bring a character up to relic tier 5, 6 stars, abilities up to, level 6. Wow, that's, talk about progress on a character like crazy. If you buy a few of these, it's like you've kind of built up a squad, and then you just have to do the finishing touches, right? You just have to get that 7th star, and then you have to add, maybe some Zetas or some Omicrons. But wow, what a way to catch up, right? A great catch-up mechanic. Down here, I would say, hey, listen, like this is probably the bait, right? I would not buy these types of things. Maybe flawed signal data, but I still hold fast to, okay, there's other places to get flawed signal data. Let's focus on the stuff that we can't get anywhere else, and that's the coaxial servo motors, or again, maybe progressing your roster so that way you can unlock GLs faster or whatever the case may be. So, era shipments, pretty big, right? We also got the episode shipments. Not such a big difference, but we could get like some signal data in here, right? And this is, again, it's little pieces, right? It's, again, when you think about this, almost think about like Ewoks, right? Like it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? This amount of server or signal data right here isn't gonna save you from anything, but when you start combining it with some of the other stuff here, you do end up getting a little bit better of an, like those bottlenecks start to really dissipate quickly. Cantina battles, right? And nothing's here except for the fact that I'm sorry, I haven't kept up with that, so I'm sorry. So let's talk about the raid. So this was another very big change, and it can't be understated because it was so big. Or maybe it can't be overstated. So so the big thing here was they added all this stuff into just being able to purchase it, right? We used to have to just buy gear and then we would have to use the scavenger, convert it or whatever. Nowadays, you can just go in. And remember, like I was saying, that first bottleneck, electriums, man, that was such a big bottleneck, at least for me, and I know for a lot of people. And now that was a Mark III token. And for most guilds that weren't even pushing max crate, right? Mark III was that really limited resource. And so what did they do? They downgraded it to Mark II. So now your Zinbiddles and your Electriums are Mark II. And so now all of a sudden you can just, buy your Electriums, call it good. And you can also now save your Mark III tokens, which are your smaller reward, even if you max out your box in the raid, and you can actually buy the other stuff. Now, this is again where I'm going to start to say things have changed, right? Yes, you can go and you could buy corrupted signal data. It's true that is also an exclusive spot for it. You can make it, but this is an exclusive place for this. You can purchase gear to pads, but again, I'm gonna show you guys what's changed a little bit. And so what I've been doing is purchasing my arrow, or sorry, not arrows. Gosh, the impulse detectors, right? These things, they're this is now where my Mark III tokens are going. I'll explain why in a little bit. You might be like, what is he doing? And honestly, it's hard for me to find Mark I, right? Like it's hard for me to find uses for it. I know I buy like some of the mod materials down here and stuff like that. But like where I'm at for my account, I have everyone at relics. I have everyone like at relic 4. This stuff is, I hate to say this because it was such a bottleneck for so long, but it's pointless to me now. So again, nothing's changed with Squad Arena except for, again, I've fallen behind. Galactic War, I've stayed pretty much up to date. Fleet Arena, nothing's changed really. Okay, so here's another place where things have changed, where we talked about in the episode currency. There was signal data there. Again, I said, hey, listen, it's not going to make a crazy big difference, but every 5 hours now I can go in and you can see I have 159,000 currency and I can buy signal data. Okay, so I have 1,200 of those. Again, I'll explain this a little bit later. I also can buy green signal data. And then, of course, I can buy some of this salvage material, which again will help with higher relics that I need to continue buying because, quite frankly, and yeah, you might be saying, why did you just buy some Chirotech? You got 5,000 of it. It's only 100 per character. Okay, so and Grand Arena, right? This is, again, you can see this row. This is now just all salvage. Here we go again, salvage. So you guys are kind of getting the key there. So let's talk about why now the higher relics have changed a lot. So we'll first start with lower relics. Lower relics have changed now, and the gears that are required for them, because it used to take like 400 Chirotech per character, and they would release a character or two every single month. So you would have to have like 800 Chirotech just waiting. Now, with the new system, the new era episode systems, you will finish an era, and so long as you played every day and you've done your task and all that other good stuff, you're getting a gear 12 character, which means that you only need 100 Chirotech per character. That is a huge reduction in the amount of Chirotech that you need to have just kind of, squirreled away and tucked away. And on top of that, it's all the extra gear. So now all of a sudden your CCBs and your bronzium wiring and your chromium transistors and your rhodium heat sinks, man, that stuff's all gone. So long as you're a daily player, you play, your era, and you're leveling up with, the stuff that's given to you. Again, this stuff now is all for free. Like it's game on, right? Anything that's below Relic 5 for you at this point is just being held up by signal data, which is, again, has been alleviated a little bit by your Get To purchases and your episode purchases. And so you really need to be pushing at least everything to Relic 5, right? Even the more casual players should be doing this at this point. But now we have, so nothing's really changed with Electriums other than the fact that we could just purchase more now because we're not having to decide, is it Mark 3 or, you know, do I purchase Electriums or do I purchase, you know, arrows or something like that? Okay. Zimbiddle, same thing, right? Bump down to the Mark 2s. So this is why I'm going to say I've been purchasing those impulse detectors with my Mark 3, right? We still are pretty limited on the gears. And I have been using Mark II to try and get, you know, some more of that. But you can see, like, I can give up basically half of my gear and I still don't even get a full Relic 8 or enough for a Relic 8, right, on the impulse detectors. So it's not like I have a ton of these. I try to keep them at 250. So, you know, just kind of a round number. So that way I can kind of stay steady with how often I'm adding a Relic 8 or Relic 9. But that's why I've been purchasing now with my Mark III raid currency for these impulse detectors. So arrow magnifiers. This is why I've stopped purchasing arrow magnifiers, because I used to be, you know, again, I talked about how this was a bottleneck, right? If you didn't have a huge crank core, reserve that was squirreled away, this ended up becoming a bottleneck, right? Every single time you add a Relic 8, 20 more of these, 20 more of these, 20 more of these. And you could see before the case was, right? Like you needed a bunch of this stuff. And I even think that there was not even for a while, there wasn't actually a way of getting them other than Mark III purchases. But you could see I can give up half of my stuff and basically get one Relic 8. Or I can purchase Mark II stuff and I can get a bunch right here. Yes, I'm salvaging 2,827 Chirotech, but I am also getting, you know, what is that, 7-ish Relic 8s off of that. And again, I have 156k of my Get 2. That is a huge economy change because beforehand, Chirotechs were just squirreled away, waiting for new characters to come out. I need 400 per character. You know, every month, you know, 400 to 800. That's not including if we're also getting a GL with there or something like that. So it was a lot and you needed to keep a lot. But again, this has changed now. But I want to be like a cautionary tale, like don't do it all on arrows, right? Because here we've got, so gear to pads still pretty expensive, right? But as long as you're doing some fleet farming, right, you can kind of keep up with it, right? Again, maybe using some Mark II currency, you might be able to keep up with this. But droid brains, another one. Again, if you were really pushing the limits on your roster, gosh, this stuff used to be so expensive, or you would have to just wait for 4 wars to get one. And now all of a sudden you could just give up some Chirotechs and boom, look at that. You can get a singular R9. So that's what I'm talking about with the economy has changed. Now, the other thing that we want to talk about is signal data. So signal data can also be converted to this Relic 10 stuff. But that being said, I think most people are not there yet, right? I'm saying that as a guy that has a 15.5 million GP account. I'm not here yet. I'm not here to the point where I'm just like, you know what? I don't need these grays as much as I need, used to, which is true. And I'm willing to give up 600 of these things so that way I can make, I think that would actually make like 2-ish, or like 1.8-ish R10s. But we're not there yet, right? But what this does do with being able to purchase stuff through the episode store and through your Get store and get these things is, yes, eventually you will be able to get to the point where they will help you convert into this corrupted signal data. But right now, what it's able to make me do is focus in on one singular node, which for me is going to be the better drop rate of the flaw signal data as I understand it. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And you guys can correct me in the comment section down below. But as I understand it, if you are just looking for one particular signal data, then it is better to use these 16 energy nodes on section 8, right? This is better if you are just trying to get 2, and it sucks because yes, they have the Omicrons, but I think you find, at least from what I've seen, that basically it favors the smaller or the lesser relic data. And so if you really just need one particular one, you can focus farm it, right? And so That's what I've been told. I don't know if that's true. And it seems to be true, at least on a few times doing it. And again, it's a 20 energy node, so you have to take that into compensate for that as well. But anyways, you can focus farm now, right? Because you are getting greens and you're getting grays of the signal data from other places now. It's augmented, right? And so you really just now need to focus on this later piece. So all that being said, that is what I'm talking about with the economy change, right? We had a huge influx in places that we can purchase things that we can convert into relic materials that we didn't have before. And that is why still hoarding everything and squirreling away and just saying, well, relic 9s are only for requirements and or like a GL or two maybe is probably outdated information, right? You will eventually fall behind because people will understand this and they're going to start using this to their advantage. And those people that you were, right next to, you're neck and neck at some point, they're going to start to pull away because they understand this concept now. And you are still playing the game as if it was 2025, not that long ago, but still. So anyways, that's what the whole, economy changes. Hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully it was informative. I know it's a lot of me talking, but hopefully, again, it kept you guys entertained, or at least explained what I was talking about inside of my little roster reviews, and kind of keeping that in charge. So thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you guys all, and we'll see you guys in the next one.